भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 10, Text 18. Ruhi Sango Jadavan Nigudha Vijnana Veyo Vicharasi Apara Vachamsi Yoga Ratitani Sadho Shamante Manasapi Etum Tadruya Sango Jadavan Niguda Vijnana Viryo Vicharasya Para Vachamsi Yoga Gratitani Sadho Nana Kashamanti Manasapi Bhetum Tadbruya Sango Jadavan Niguda Vijnana Viryo Vicharasya Para Vachamsi Yoga Gratitani Sadho Nana Kashamanti Manasapi Bhetum Tadruya Sango Jadavan Niguda Vijnana Viryo Vicharasya Para Vachamsi Yoga Gratitani Sadho Nana Kashamanti Manasapi Bhetum Tadruya Sango Jadavan Niguda Vijnana Viryo Vicharasya Para Vachamsi Yoga Gratitani Sadho Nana Kashamanti Manasapi Bhetum Om Gyananandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurumritamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sarvadhyena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadari Swapadantikam Mandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuda Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Sadevam Sarvaitam Savadutam Kalijara Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishamanusuke Devi Pranamami Harige Vancha Kalpa Tarupayascha Kripa Sindhu Revacha Padinanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Tadbruhuya Sango Jadavan Niguda Vijnana Viryo Vicharasya Pada Uchamsi yoga greitani sadho nana kadhamante manasapi bhetam. So King Rahugana is the speaker of this verse of the Bhagavatam. As we have read, Rahugana has discovered and realized that this deaf and dumb man is not a deaf and dumb man, but he's a self-realized soul. There was a reason why King Jat Bharat was acting deaf and dumb. Having made a mistake in his previous birth as King Bharat, he did not want to repeat the same mistake again. He knew that he had got attached to a deer, and then he died while searching for the deer. And when he had got attached to the deer, the king started neglecting his spiritual duties. As a result, when he took his birth in the family of a Brahmana, in which he was identified as Jat Bharat, he resolved not to get entangled at all. So he was acting as he was deaf and dumb. Prabhupada said, a saint is recognized when he speaks. You don't recognize a saint by how he looks. You recognize a saint when he speaks. So, when Jat Bharat began to speak, the king realized that he has actually made an offense by chastising this deaf and dumb man. So King Rahugana is saying, it appears that the influence of your great spiritual knowledge is hidden. In other words, because externally Jat Bharat was acting in such a humble way as a deaf and dumb man, King Rahugana is saying, it appears that your spiritual awareness is hidden. People are unaware of it. King Rahugana was feeling all the more repentant because he knew that he had offended a great Brahmana. And he knew the ill effects of offending an advanced Brahmana. As the king has said, he is not afraid of the thunderbolt of Indra, nor of the trident of Lord Shiva, nor of the heat of the sun and the moon and the stars, but he is afraid of offending a Vaishnava, a Brahmana. Now another point that Prabhupada makes in the purport is that great souls like Jat Bharat, they do not speak ordinary words, but they repeat the words of the sages. A saintly personality recognizes that he is fool number one. So he gives credit to the works of the great sages that are left behind. Just like if you examine Srila Prabhupada's lectures, letters, etc., you will see that he is always quoting the previous acharyas. If you examine the writings of Bhakti Sanandani and Thakur Bhaktivinoda, you will see the same pattern. And they've all spoken what is spoken based on what is spoken by Krishna. Shrupa Goswami says, Shruti Smriti Paranadi Pancharataka Vidimina Ekantiki Hari Bhakti Vidpada Eva Kalpate. That process that is not based upon Shruti and Smriti, scriptures and the sages, will simply create a disturbance in society. So, a genuine saintly personality follows the path of the sadhus and the shastra. As you know, there are three parallel tracks for making spiritual advancement or obtaining spiritual knowledge: Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So all three tracks, all three sources have to speak the same language. So Jat Bharat wasn't speaking anything that he thought was right. Rather, he just spoke what the great sages had spoken. Now, King Rahugana is further describing some of the saintly qualities of Jat Bharat. In earlier verses, he had described how Jat Bharat was tolerant, peaceful, humble. Now Jat Bharat is saying, King Rahugana is saying, that you are bereft of all mutual association. Mutual association is detrimental for spiritual advancement. Satsanga Tyagai Vaishnavachara Sri Sangi Eka Sadhu Krishna Bhaktahara. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, give up the association of those who are worldly minded and attached to women and sense enjoyment. Now someone may say, but how is this practical in today's environment? To some extent, you have to associate with worldly minded people at all levels. Even when you go to preach, even when you go to do book distribution, even when you go on Harinam, you have to some extent, associate with worldly-minded people. Then someone in the Grihastha ashram may be doing job or business, someone will be studying, etc. So again, you have to associate with worldly-minded people. So how do you reconcile? On the one hand, the scriptures say, give up worldly association, and on the other hand, the practical reality that you can't avoid giving up that association completely. The solution is that you associate with worldly-minded people as long as it is necessary and not beyond. Let's say, for example, that you're a preacher. You're talking with someone with the value of book distribution, of buying a book. Obviously, you have to give association to inspire the person to take a book. But give association and talk to the point necessary to get him inspired. But don't drag on the conversation into a social, romantic talk under the guise of book distribution. Similarly, when we're working or studying or whatever, one may associate to the extent necessary and not beyond. So, King Rahugana is describing that Jad Bharata was bereft of all mature association. Of course, in the case of Jad Bharata, he had stopped talking to anyone. He was acting as if he was deaf and dumb. People would throw stones at him, laugh at him, ridicule him. Still he would tolerate it. So determined to succeed spiritually. Jad Bharata, we get the example how we should also be determined to succeed spiritually. And that Jad Bharata, his mind, as it says here, was fully absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme. Krishna is telling us again and again to absorb our mind in thinking of him. Krishna says, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyajima namaskaru mamevashati satyam te prati janai. Think of me, bow down to me, become my devotee, offer your homage unto me, and I guarantee you that you'll come to me. On one occasion, Jad Bharata was guarding a paddy field, and he was kidnapped by the dacoits. And the dacoits wanted to offer him the goddess cup. So they gave him a bath, massaged him, applied perfume on his body, and they were getting ready to offer him the goddess cup. They wanted to please Goddess Kali so that the guru, the leader, could have a son. Jad Bharata, however, was totally absorbed in just meditating on the Lord. Even when the dacoits took the chopper and were about to slash him with it, Jad Bharata didn't protest. What happened? The deity, Goddess Kali, was so pleased by Jad Bharata's meditation on the Lord that she came out from the deity, took the same chopper, and cut the dacoits to pieces. Durvasa Muni had envy towards Amrish Maharaj, produced a demon from his seat. Maharaj Amrish was absorbed in thinking of the Lord. Sarvimana Krishna Pradhana Mulayo. And what happened? The Sudarshan Chakra of the Lord came to the rescue of Amrish Maharaj, chased Durvasa Muni. So Jad Bharata, as it is being described by King Rahugana, was fully absorbed in thinking of the Lord. The various ways we can think of the Lord. One is to think of the form of the Lord, Rupa. The Lord is so kind and manifests himself in a variety of different incarnations, in different forms. In the form of Gaurathai, Radha Krishna, Sita Ram. So many forms you can have your pick. Meditate on the Leela, the pastimes of the Lord. The 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. You read about so many wonderful pastimes of the Lord. Then meditate on the guna, qualities of the Lord. In many temples of ISKCON, we chant the Brahma Samhita in the morning after Mangalam. We do that in Bombay. So if you read the Brahma Samhita, you will see that there's such wonderful explanation of so many wonderful qualities, guna of the Lord. How the Lord manifests himself in his Archa Vigraha form. How the Lord, with any one part of his body, can fulfill the function of any other part. How the Lord is unlimited. How he is the oldest, but he appears ever youthful. So that is guna. You meditate on the guna, meditate on the rupa, meditate on the lila. Then meditate on the nama, the holy names of the Lord. What will you meditate on the nama? First meditate how the Lord is so kind that he has invested all his transcendental energies in resolving. Then meditate how the Nama is the principal means of self-realization in this age of Kali. And how the Lord associates with you when you chant. So these are some way, and then the Leela, the pastimes of the Lord. They're unlimited pastimes of the Lord. But we don't have to worry about the unlimited pastimes. We can just meditate on the pastimes that Prabhupada talks about in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. So, over here, King Rahugana is saying that your mind is totally absorbed in thoughts of the Lord. What are our minds constantly absorbed in thoughts of the Lord? No? No? Are our minds also absorbed in thoughts of Krishna? No. Our minds are absorbed in thoughts of activities that give us name, fame, adoration, sense enjoyment, prestige. Prabhupada? But King Rahugana is saying that your mind is fully absorbed in thoughts of the Lord. Hence, you're advanced in spiritual knowledge. So a person becomes advanced in spiritual knowledge by cultivating these divine qualities that have been described in this chapter. Sure. The symptom of an advanced devotee is he's only interested in being engaged in devotional service 24 hours a day. So Jad Bharat is fully absorbed in thoughts of the Lord. And hence, King Rahugana said, you're advanced in spiritual knowledge. Now Jad Bharat, Rahugana wants to know if that Jad Bharat is so enlightened, why is he walking around like a dull man? Of course, the reason why he was acting like a dull man, we have explained, is he didn't want to get entangled or repeat the same mistake he's made before. Now, King Rahugana is presenting a very good point after this. He says, you have spoken words approved by the yogic process, but unfortunately, I can't understand it. So please explain it in detail. Now, this is a statement of King Rahugana. He says, what you have spoken is right, but I can't understand it. Please explain to me further. So what does this mean? That if a great sage like Rahugana cannot understand things immediately, then where are we? If we don't understand the philosophy just by hearing it once, don't feel bad. Many times we are shy in getting clarification. We are shy in getting our doubts removed. We keep the doubts in the heart, but that's not good. So, if someone like King Rahugana can demand, request clarification, where's our position? Therefore, Rupa Goswami in Upadesharamrita says, he talked about 6 rasas amongst devotees. One of the rasas is to reveal your mind to those who are more advanced. And second, to take instructions from those who are more advanced. Now our philosophy, as you know, is pretty simple. What are the main elements? There's the Supreme Lord in control, and he's known by Krishna. We are part and parcel of the Lord. We are eternal in nature. Lord is supreme enjoyer. Lord is our well-wisher. And devotional service is auspicious, everything else is inauspicious. Now, this is pretty simple, isn't it? Yeah. But we may accept it one day, but the next day we doubt it, depending on what association we are. So in good association, we're convinced, yes, this is the thing, this is the goal of life. And when you're in weak association, you begin to think, maybe I went in too fast, I shouldn't have gone in that fast in spiritual life. And if you're in association of gross materialists, then you say, oh, maybe this wasn't necessary. Therefore, Prabhupada instituted a system of regularly studying the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also instructed, chant Hare Krishna and read Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam daily. Because just like Rahugana is asking Jad Bharat, please explain further. He said, yes, you have spoken very important philosophy that is approved by the Shastras and the sages, but I'm not understanding it fully. So please explain it to me further. So then Jad Bharat explains in the next 2 chapters the same philosophy that he has already explained. Krishna could have summarized the Bhagavad Gita in 4 verses. But in order to make us understand it thoroughly, he explains the same point again and again from so many different angles. So that we may understand the point. Prabhupada in the purport says, the Gita says, repetition is necessary to drive the point home. The real point that we're getting at is this. Don't feel bad if you don't understand it, but feel bad when you have a doubt and you do an endeavor to get it removed by the proper process. Just like Arjuna have doubts, Prabhupada says to have doubts is something that's not unusual. So, by trying to endeavor to understand, by asking questions, we get a doubt removed and the subject matter gets most firmly established in the mind. So because King Rahugana wanted further explanation, Jat Bharat is explaining the same point in detail in the next 2 chapters. In the purport, Prabhupada points out the importance of receiving knowledge through disciplic succession. So this is the process that we hear knowledge that is approved by the great sages. As Prabhupada says, Krishna selected Arjuna to be the recipient only because of one qualification. Arjuna was not a sannyasi or a brahmachari. He was still selected by Krishna to be the recipient. Why? Because you are my friend and devotee. Therefore you can understand the transcendental secrets of this great science. In a way there is no secret. Like all our books which contain the philosophy are meant for public consumption. We encourage people to do book distribution so people can read the philosophy. So someone may say, so what's the big secret in this knowledge? The secret is that it has to be received through an authentic source, namely a devotee in discipline success. If you have the fortune of receiving it from an authentic source, then it will have desired effect. So Prabhupada in the concluding line of the purport is saying, how in this age the process for self-realization is the chanting of the Mahamantra. As the purport is pointing out, by and large the people in this age have Sudra mentality. Kalo Sudra Sambhava. That by and large the population today is Sudra. In India you see the whole caste system has been politicalized. They are busy identifying who is higher caste, who is lower caste. But scriptures say everyone is Sudra in this age. So there's no point in bragging, I'm a Brahmana. We're all Sudras. But by qualification you can elevate yourself. So in ignorance one will do something, but when it comes to knowledge, he should be determined not to repeat the mistake. So we saw how Jat Bharat, in ignorance, he got attached to a deer, got distracted from spiritual principles, but now, having realized his mistake, he is acting like a deaf and dumb man so as not to repeat the mistake again. In the Bhagavatam, you read a story of Narada Muni. Once when he was passing by, he saw the 2 sons of Kubera who were heavily intoxicated. What were they intoxicated with? Varuni. Varuni, the special liquor you get in the heavenly planets, not in Moscow. Near Malukuk in Moscow. So Varuni is a liquor in the heavenly planets. So, being the sons of Kubera, they were falsely influenced by their father's wealth. So Narada Muni, for their benefit, gave them a curse. It's a long story, but we'll just summarize it because there's one point we wish to make. So Narada Muni cursed them to become trees in the courtyard of Nand Maharaj. For 100 celestial years, 6 months of our earthly years is equal to 1 day of the heavenly planets. And he also gave them a benediction. At the end of 100 years, you'll be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm sure none of you would mind this curse. Anyone who would mind it? Tree in the courtyard of Nand Maharaj. So Krishna remembered the promise of his devotee, Narada, and after the expiry of the 100 celestial years, he pulled down the 2 trees, and out from the trees came the 2 sons of Kubera. Then the 2 sons of Kubera began to offer their respects to the Lord. And they said, henceforward, from now onwards, please may our words constantly describe your pastime. Please may our ears engage in hearing your oral reception, hearing about your glories. Please may our hands, legs, and senses be engaged in activities pleasing to you. Please may our minds always be attracted to your lotus feet. Please may our heads offer obeisances to all Vaishnavas. Please may our eyes see the form of Vaishnavas who are non-different from you. And because all things are your different forms, please may our heads offer obeisances to them and use them in your service. Because all things are your different forms, please may our heads offer obeisances to them and use them in your service. So, we gave this example to show that over here we see, we have two cases in front of us now. One is the case of Jat Bharat, who had made a mistake and now has become determined not to repeat the mistake. The other is the two sons of Kuvera, who had also made a mistake, but now they've agreed, they've resolved not to repeat the mistake. Similarly, each of us, we may have made so many mistakes, but now that we've come to Krishna consciousness, we should develop the determination that the sons of Kuvera manifested and Jat Bharat is manifesting. In mature life, people have heroes that they worship, like all these pop singers have followers, disciples ready to give their life for them. Sports stars, etc. So we also have heroes. One of our heroes that is being discussed is Jat Bharat. We can also take on the sons of Kuvera as a hero after they realize their mistake, not before, and be inspired by their determination. They don't have the earlier aspect of their life as heroes, but the post aspect. So, we should also be determined to pursue spiritual life and not be bewildered by the illusory energy. So Prabhupada is dedicating this whole purport to this one point, that how in Kali Yuga everybody is fallen, and the remedy is chanting of the holy names of Krishna. And if you're chanting and reading the Bhagavatam and Gita, you will understand it much better. Those who are chanting and reading the Gita and Bhagavatam, they can understand the devotional spirit of this literature. So to summarize the verse, King Rahugana is further describing some of the saintly qualities of Jat Bharat. In an earlier verse he described how Jat Bharat was tolerant, peaceful, but now he's describing how he was totally bereft of material association, totally absorbed in thoughts of the Lord, and consequently advanced in knowledge. So one becomes advanced in knowledge, not just by having PhD degrees, but by learning the art of controlling the mind and senses. So we should also draw inspiration from the determination shown by Jat Bharat and Nandukawada and Manigriva, and be determined to succeed spiritually. And what is our weapon against Maya? Chanting the Mahamantra. The different stages of chanting the Mahamantra. Initial stage is to chant and commit offenses. Then you chant and minimize offenses. This is the intermediate stage. And the final stage is chant and not commit offenses. Purified chant. So as the sons of Kuvera said, please may your words constantly describe your pastimes. So we shall also endeavor. And then the ears will also automatically hear the transcendental glories of the Lord. We should all be grateful that Srila Prabhupada gave us this very wonderful pure philosophy for our enlightenment. And the more we study these books, the more we'll appreciate Prabhupada's greatness.
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama